Disciplined disciples, number 3, building better habits. Dost thou love life? Then do not squander time, for that is the stuff life is made of. Benjamin Franklin said that. And I really, this is kind of my verse for the year, Ephesians 5:15 and 16. Look therefore carefully how ye walk, not as unwise, but as wise, redeeming the time because the days are evil. Today is the day to redeem the time. Let's make the most of our time. The Apostle Paul, he said, forgetting those things which are behind and looking forward to that which is in front of us. He said, this one thing I do, I press toward the mark for the prize of the high calling. Now more than ever, we need to manage our time. We need to manage our time now more than ever. What are some of the time stealers that we have? I put 2 of mine on silent. Isn't it funny how habitual that phone can be? You sit there and all of a sudden you hear a ding. The next thing you know, 20 minutes has went by, half hours went by. We need to manage our time. Depending on the research, 40 to 60%, and actually I saw one place that said up to 95%, which I don't really agree with. I think the 40 to 60% is a little bit closer, of our behavior is habitual. We are creatures of habit. We have a tendency to do the same thing at the same time, on the same days, for most of our life. If you think about it, when you get up in the morning, your alarm goes off. And you either get right out of bed with a smile on your face or you hit snooze till somebody kicks you. And that is the beginning of our habitual behavior. So you get out of bed, and today when you put your socks on, you probably put the same foot on as you did yesterday and the day before and the day before and the day before, because habitual behavior is just that. It's like autopilot. You don't even realize what you're doing. So if we can be disciplined disciples building better habits, imagine the work that we could do for God. Habits, understanding habits. So in your notes, habit loops consist of 3 basic parts. Habit loops, L-O-O-P-S, loops. Three basic parts. The first one, the cue or the trigger, starts the habitual behavior. So you have a cue, you have a trigger. The pattern of behavior is the action. The third part is the reward. The reward reinforces the habit. So you have 3 basic parts. You have a cue, a trigger, a pattern of behavior, and then a reward at the end. And if you break it down real simply, okay, let's look at that illustration, you know, the alarm going off in the morning. So how many people are morning people? You love the morning? Okay, got some yeses, some nos. When the alarm goes off, man, you get a smile on your face, your pattern of behavior, your feet hit the floor, and you know that you're going to get up, go into the kitchen, and you're going to make a pot of coffee, and there it is. The cue, the trigger is the alarm. The pattern of behavior is walking to the kitchen. The reward is the smell of that coffee. Okay? Now that's for the early morning risers. For those of us who are not early morning risers, you know what it is? It's the snooze button. And the reward is another 9 minutes of peaceful slumber. It is. It all depends on your personality, but nevertheless, we are creatures of habit. And habits, they have 3 parts. They have a cue, a trigger, a pattern of behavior, and a reward at the end. That next one there, this is kind of a special type of habit, a craving. There are some habits that generate a craving, and that is a desire to perform the action, and you actually start to get a dopamine rush when you even start thinking about it. And if you think of chemical addiction, things like that, tobacco, when a smoker thinks of a cigarette, man, all of a sudden they get this craving. That's what it is. But you know what I really like? I think it was in 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 16. It says, basically, greet the house of Stephanas, the first fruits of Achaia. They have addicted themselves to ministry. Could you imagine that? Where you literally, you addict yourself to the work of God because you have a craving. I remember working with Trevor, and Trevor goes, man, this is so exciting. We're going to Hibbing, and this is like the first fruits, man. We are sowing seed, and he was like, he was getting this rush. And it was a craving to see people be reached. And that's the start of habitual behavior. Changing habits. Although we are creatures of habit, we can change. See the hint at the bottom of the page. Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Start today. Start today. Don't put it off till tomorrow. Recognize your habits. Recognizing habitual behavior is the first step to changing it. And not all habits are bad. Some are really good. But nevertheless, we need to manage our time. Formulate a plan. Be realistic. Find an accountability partner. When you look at a habit that you may want to start or may want to change, sometimes there's things in your life that, you're sitting there and you're like, man, I do too much of this, or I don't do enough of that. And we're talking about just real life stuff too, not just spiritual things, but we're going to make a spiritual application at the end here. So maybe it's, man, I really wish I would get up earlier in the morning. Or maybe I wish I would go to sleep a little sooner at night. Maybe I would wish I could get a little more done at the end of the day. So confession's good for the soul. Here's one for me. If I sit down on the couch downstairs, I'm done. I'm done. I will pretty much, watch whatever on YouTube or Netflix or whatever streaming device has the most attractive thing to watch. Sometimes it's preaching videos. Sometimes it's not. But nevertheless, if I'm looking at how does Mike Tribbett change Mike Tribbett's behavior, okay, what I need to realize is starting a new habit. Next line. Habit stacking is placing a new pattern of behavior in an existing habit loop. So it's really simple. So if I want to add something, let's say reading the Bible to my morning routine, and I know that the alarm goes off and I make my coffee, and then I sit by the window and I look outside. All I have to do is, in the middle of those habits that I already perform, that habit loop, I just need to grab that Bible and bring it with. And what's really cool is you can make it easy. You know how you make it easy? 2 ways. One for at night, take a Bible and put it by the switch that you turn off just before you go to bed. And you know what you do? You pick it up and you read a verse before you go to bed. Wherever you sit and you drink your coffee, if it's at the table, before you go to sleep, make sure there's a Bible right there. Really, really simple stuff, but practical application is where Christianity is. It's the day-to-day, it's the daily grind, it's the, what do I do? How do I live for Christ? If 40 to 60% of my daily behavior is habitual, why not create habits that make it easy to live for God? So right down there at the bottom, we got 3 points. My cue. So You don't have to do this right now, but if you can, if you think about it, go ahead. So think of a cue or a pattern of behavior. It might be a time of day. It might be an alarm clock going off. It might be getting home from work. It might be sitting in the easy chair. There's a pattern of behavior that starts with a cue or a trigger. So think of one for you. Maybe it's a notification going off on your phone, a cue or a trigger. So if a notification goes off on your phone, you know what you could do? Set a timer for 5 minutes. I've got a 5-minute timer. Now I go ahead and I check my notifications, and in 5 minutes it's going to go off and remind me, hey, I gotta go do something else. So I've just interjected something into my habit loop that can help me change the outcome, and I won't get sucked into that 45-minute rabbit hole of, oh, I wonder what they're doing over there. Oh, look at that, Oh, wow, cool, that's really neat. Look at the picture of the moon, You guys laugh because you guys, you know exactly how it is. The internet's an unbelievably attractive place. Get stuck there for hours, right? So, spend 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes reading my Bible and praying. That's where you go up to changing habits. Be realistic. You don't want to start out with an hour and a half. One verse a day is better than 100 if you never read 100. And then my reward. Think of something you can reward yourself with. And it's kind of simple, but with those three things, you can really, really change your behavior. I put a couple of references down there for The Power of Habit, a couple of books I read, Atomic Habits by James Clear. When you look at two different things, there's a couple different people in the Bible that I can think of specifically. One is Daniel. What did he do 3 times a day? He prayed. He prayed 3 times a day. You know what I like? Jesus went to the synagogue, as was his custom. Jesus, he went off on his own to pray. It actually says as well that he went off on his own to get away from people. He needed his alone time to refresh and recoup. He did. Amen, she says. So it's very, very important that our habits and our behaviors are the right ones. So, amen.